Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us here at OPG's Nanticoke site in Haldimand County. My name is Kim Lauritsen and I'm the Senior Vice President of Enterprise Strategy and Growth at OPG. And I'm proud to be joined here today by Minister Lecce, MPP Will Boma, Parliamentary Assistant David Smith, Mayor Shelley Ann Bentley of Haldimand County, and Renee Van Kooten, President of Simcoe and District Chamber of Commerce. Before we begin today's event, I would like to respectfully acknowledge that Haldimand County and the Nanticoke site are areas that are home to many Indigenous people. To acknowledge the land is to recognize and honor the connection Indigenous people and their ancestors have with it since time immemorial. And we offer our gratitude to Indigenous communities for their care and for the teachings about this land on which we have the privilege to live. As a company, OPG remains committed to developing positive and mutually beneficial relationships with Indigenous nations and communities. And this includes building strong relationships with the Six Nations of the Grand River and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nations. Nanticoke and Haldimand County have played a huge role in both our predecessor company and Ontario Power Generation's history. For more than 40 years, this site helped power Ontario. And now we're looking forward to the role that Nanticoke could play in Ontario's energy future. For more on that, I would now like to welcome the Honourable Stephen Lecce, Ontario's Minister of Energy and Mines, to share some remarks.
Thank you. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. It is good to be here. This has been a really important announcement to the province of Ontario, and I want to obviously thank all my parliamentary colleagues who are with us, our neighbour here in this community, Will Boma, the MPP for Brantford Brand, the Parliamentary Assistant to the Premier of Ontario. Thank you, Will, for your leadership advocacy for this community. I want to thank Mayor Shelley Ann Bentley, the Mayor of Haldimand County. Thank you, Mayor, for your welcome today. I want to thank Renee, the President of the Simcoe and District Chamber of Commerce. I had to Google that because I was not convinced this was the Simcoe you were referring to until I rediscovered my geography and knew that we're in the right place. So thank you, Renee, for your partnership. I want to thank Haldimand County and all of you are with us today from many of our partners, many members of the community. Look, this is the site. This is one of the most prolific, largest, already licensed, already permitted sites for electricity generation in the province of Ontario. You know, over a decade ago, the former Liberal government made a decision to close the coal-fired plant. It was the world's largest. And while there was virtue in decarbonizing, there was a lack of foresight of thinking about how do we make sure that this land and those workers remain adding value to the community and to the country. And for thousands of people overnight, and for this community, it faced a great deal of hardship. And so the message from your province, from Will, from David Smith, the Parliamentary Assistant, and I, is that we want to breathe new life and instill confidence and hope that the Government of Ontario, working with OPG, is reimagining this 900-acre site. That we're giving it a plan. We're putting it on a track to generate more power in one of the fastest growing regions of Ontario. And I'm grateful to the local chambers, the local industry reps, to the local families, wardens and mayors, all of whom have defined the problem clearly to us in government, which is we need power to be localized, and we need jobs to be permanent. And I think of one of the few industries of Canada, recession-proof, tariff-proof, is our Canada and Ontario's energy sector, particularly as we think about technologies like nuclear power that have been the ultimate case study of our sovereignty. Long-term jobs, good-paying jobs for 80 years. This is the type of investment we're thinking about in this region. And so after many years of engagement, we've come to appreciate that we need to generate a ton of power. This region, specifically in the province, is looking at 90% more power by 2050. We have a serious challenge and a massive opportunity on the horizon. And that's why we're here. That's why we wanted to come physically to this site, to where it all began, to make the case that Haldimand County and Nanticoke specifically can play and should play an outsized role in generating power for this region and for the country. And that's why we have laid the groundwork for today's announcement. Part of today's commitment is to announce that the province of Ontario is going to be taking the next step. We're moving this project forward, moving to the next step of generating power here at Haldimand. We're also committing to providing $500,000 of growth readiness funding to the Haldimand County as a way of demonstrating our commitment to really launch consultations to talk about a critical path to making this site deliver power, deliver value and jobs for the region and for the province. Because we really see a potential here to attract investment, to create good local jobs, to ensure that Nanticoke once again plays a vital role in powering Ontario with firm baseload power. And there are really few sites that can do what Nanticoke can do. I mean, a large industrial footprint, existing transmission infrastructure, a port access, room to support the next generation of energy projects, like 900 acres, uniquely positioned, already zoned for up to 3,000 megawatts of electricity generation. And it's connected to major transmission infrastructure in the ports, and it has tons of lands to expand. And so that's why we believe we wanted to come here together with Will Boma, with David Smith, with our entire team, simply to say yes to moving this electricity generation project forward in partnership with the county, with local governments, with First Nations. We will only proceed in partnership. And that's why we're here, to let every worker know, every alumnus of that old OPG site, and to every young person out there, every young boy and girl looking to get a job in the communities they were raised, we are looking at a series of technologies that can include small modular reactors, which is going to be a massive economic play for the region. And I'm very grateful for the ability to be with you today to announce this early next step as we commence consultations and ongoing engagement, both with the municipalities and with the First Nation partners whom we've already been meeting with to date. So with that, I just want to thank you for being a part of a very positive announcement in the province. And more than anything else, I just want to express a message of gratitude to our friends at OPG for having the foresight to build ahead. Because remember, in Pickering, many years ago when the former government were going to close the Pickering nuclear generating station, remember, they didn't have a plan for those workers either. And our government is saying we're going to have a plan. We have decided to give new life to Pickering, extend the asset, 38 more years of generating power, right? 30,000 jobs, $40 billion gain to the economy. Think of the potential of what is possible. And while we've not made any decisions on technology, that will only follow meaningful engagement. What I can simply say is there's massive economic opportunity on the horizon for this region. We want to give people hope. We want to create opportunities in this community, for this community. And that's why we're here today. And so will you welcome our neighbor and a dear friend, someone who's been a wonderful champion for power in this region and a great advocate for collaboration with the County of Haldimand, and that's Will Boma. Thank you so much.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Will Boma, and I am the MPP for Brantford-Brant, as well as the Parliamentary Assistant to Greg Rickford, Ontario's Minister for Indigenous Affairs and First Nations Economic Reconciliation, and he sends his best regards. It's a pleasure to be here with you today in this beautiful part of Ontario. And to all the dignitaries who are gathered here today, thank you for spending some time with us. It's always great to renew long-time friendships and meet new friends at the same time. Today is an exciting time for Haldimand County. For decades, Nanticoke has helped power Ontario and support this community. This investment represents an important step in building on that proud legacy, creating new, good-paying job opportunities for local workers, for supporting local businesses, and ensuring Haldimand County continues to play a vital role in Ontario's growth for generations to come. Through the leadership of Premier Ford and Minister Lecce, Ontario has the first ever integrated energy plan to ensure that our province has a reliable, affordable power needed to support new homes, to attract new investment, and drive economic growth. Our government's integrated approach and record investments in energy infrastructure are also providing the certainty needed for Indigenous communities, for municipalities, and for businesses and industry partners to invest confidently in Ontario's future. At Nanticoke, we will work together with Indigenous partners and municipalities to help write the next chapter, one focused on supporting new investment, on creating good-paying local jobs and longer-term opportunities for the community. And it is now my pleasure to call up Shelley Ann Bentley, Mayor for Haldimand County. Your Worship.
Thank you, everyone. On behalf of Haldimand County Council and our residents, I'd like to thank the Province of Ontario, Ontario Power Generation, Independent Electrical Safety Operator, and those involved in today's announcement. As Ontario plans for the future, ensuring a reliable, affordable, and sustainable source of electricity, it will be more important than ever. Haldimand County is proud to be part of that conversation. The Nanticoke Industrial Area offers many advantages to support a scalable and successful energy development, including existing infrastructure, strategic transportation connections, and a long history of supporting Ontario's needs. For our community, opportunities like this are about more than energy generation. They're about supporting economic growth, creating opportunities for future generations, and helping build a prosperous and sustainable future for Haldimand County and surrounding communities. While there is still important work ahead of us, today's announcement is a vital step and one that highlights the rich potential that Haldimand County has to offer. So thank you everyone for coming out here and sharing this amazing announcement today, and I look forward to what we are going to do on this site. Thank you. And I'm going to pass this on to Renee Van Houten, President of the Simcoe and District Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Renee.
Thank you. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Thank you, Shelley. On behalf of the Simcoe and District Chamber of Commerce, I want to highlight what the developments at the Nanticoke site mean for our region. While the funding is directed to Haldimand County, the economic benefits could extend well into Norfolk, strengthening our supply chains, our labor market, and our local business community. Major energy projects of this scale and potential create broad regional opportunity, and Norfolk County is well positioned to benefit. The demand for labor that accompanies new energy generation supports skilled trades, apprenticeships, and long-term employment across all the region. It also drives activity in sectors that serve workers in industry: restaurants, retail, accommodation, transportation, equipment suppliers, and logistics. We welcome the province's commitment and funding of investment in this area and the potential it brings to attract additional industrial development. New energy generation often leads to co-located industries, which can serve to new business partnerships across both counties. These projects tend to strengthen regional infrastructure and support housing growth and creating the conditions for business expansion and long-term economic stability. The Chamber is genuinely excited to see the province investing in our region, and we want to thank Minister Lecce and the Government of Ontario for recognizing the strategic importance of the Nanticoke site. This kind of commitment signals real opportunity for economic growth. As energy development advances, it can attract additional industry, drive sustained economic growth. We see this as a chance to strengthen the entire region and build more prosperous future for our communities. This is more than an energy project. It is a catalyst for prosperity across both counties. The Chamber welcomes the opportunities ahead. Thank you.
We will now begin the Q&A portion. Media can line up next to me. When you approach the mic, please say your name and outlet. And as a reminder, the format will be one question and one follow-up.
Jeffrey Tram here with CBC News. To be clear, how many workers would be needed to run a small modular reactor, and how many jobs would this project create in all?
Okay, so I'll give you an existing case study because that would be presumptuous to assume the technology selection. We're not there yet, but thank you CBC for suggesting so. But we're not there. We're going to we're going to meaningfully consult to get this right. We didn't presuppose an outcome on technology at Port Hope in Wesleyville, which is a much larger site, one of the 3 OPG-owned sites that we are reactivating, or at least we have an intention to reactivate for the good of Ontario, for our economy. But using the Darlington, the DNNP, the location of where we're building 4 small modular reactors. There was an independent study that concluded that the 4 SMRs will contribute conservatively 18 to 19,000 construction jobs over the course of that fleet of 4, and 3,700 permanent jobs, adding $39+ billion to the national economy in net gain. So that is a massive economic diversification strategy if you want to create hundreds or thousands of permanent jobs for 65 years. That's a 65-year asset, the SMR 80 years for larger scale nuclear. So it's a major way to infuse growth, to get people working, to get the supply chain of Ontario working. 80% of every SMR that we build is at least 80% is sourced using made in Ontario, made in Canada components. So the supply chain wins, the workforce wins, the construction sector wins as they build them. So, but having said that, I will go to my first principle. We're not there today, but we are certainly exploring nuclear. That's part of the discussion, but we have to do so in partnership. And obviously, I want to respect the First Nation perspectives. Those are going to be paramount before we make any decision.
And my other question is, the Premier has styled himself as Captain Canada and led the fight against U.S. trade threats. So why is this government building SMRs at Darlington that Canada can't fuel it on its own and that will depend on the U.S. or France for uranium enrichment and fuel fabrication?
Okay, it's a good question. So there is not a Canadian grid-scale, commercially viable small modular reactor technology to procure as a first principle. So we had to go global. And when you're doing the first of its kind, this is the first jurisdiction in the Western world building a small modular reactor. Our commitment in government is to de-risk, to do everything possible to de-risk the first of its kind. There's inherent risk when you build the first. And everyone would honestly accept that premise. So we went with the best, most efficacious, world-leading technology partner in GE and Hitachi as our partner to build. And we really believe that was the right decision. It's why we are the first. It's why we're leading the way at DNNP. Now, you speak about fuels and the sovereignty of fuels. That's top of mind for the province of Ontario. So in order to enrich fuels, the federal government would need to make some changes to their participation part of the non-proliferation treaty. So this is not an easy decision point and one that the province can make alone. The feds will play a really important role if they choose to enter into the enrichment space. Ontario, just for context, our role when it comes to processing fuels, nuclear fuels, the largest uranium mine in the world is in Canada. All of that uranium, raw, unenriched uranium, is sent to Ontario to Port Hope, where we in Ontario, process about 25% of global uranium. So we are an energy superpower. We play a really critical role. Much of the uranium we're using, all of our CANDU fleet comes from Canada, from Saskatchewan, processed in Ontario for the benefit of Canada. So to your point about how do we ensure we have safe access to supply, particularly when it comes to the U.S., we have Plan B and a Plan C when it comes to having the UK and the French companies that are partnered with Ontario with OPG, and we have short and medium-term commitments to have access to that supply. So I'm absolutely confident we have access to the fuels. You raise an important public policy question for the country. Do we want to enter the uranium space? The Premier and I think, are open to having that discussion if it could help fortify our economy and reduce the risks to the U.S. But of course, that decision point isn't made by Ontario. It would ultimately be made by the federal government. I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but Kim, anything you'd like to add?
Well.
Okay.
Good
Thank
afternoon, Hamilton Spectator here. I'm hoping to get some more details on this memorandum of understanding and how the $500,000 will be spent.
Sure. I will. So it's the growth readiness funding. I'll maybe do the high level, and then I may turn it over to Kim and the mayor that maybe want to explain a bit about why we're doing this. OPG for the 3 sites we have in Nanticoke here in Haldimand, obviously in Lambton and in Port Hope. We have dedicated funds to help support the municipalities as they do their engagements. It's really unrestricted. It's allowing the municipality to put the dollars where they need it most to help them build the capacity as we lead a very large consultation on the future of this site. And so $500,000 is not an insignificant quantum. These sometimes could represent, a percentage or two on some local tax bills. I mean, the mayor will remind me, but it's a large amount of money supporting a municipality who's at least at the early stages expressed a willingness to have a conversation as a host to energy generation. And I think we need to incentivize partners to get to the table because we have a serious plan to generate power. We need to reverse engineer our generation from our demand forecasts. So if you look at 2050, we have at least conservatively 60 to 65% with the ISO present. Minimum of 65% is the demand forecast. The high is 90%. We have to almost double the grid under the worst case scenario if we really add all the homes, all the industry, and all the growth. It's a good problem to have. The difference between Ontario and everyone around us is we have a plan, a long-term plan for growth. And Will Boma mentioned it. The Integrated Energy Plan is the basis for our 25-year economic roadmap. It tells you how we're going to generate the power, how we're going to transmit it, store it, and keep power affordable for the people we serve. So, but with that, may I turn it over to you folks if you have anything to say?
I will hand it over to the mayor in a moment to talk about the local considerations, but it is, as the minister mentioned, the next step, right? We appreciate at OPG, we have not made a decision yet about what generation type would be best suited on this site. And so taking this to the next step, the funding from our perspective allows the community to have the capacity to understand how do they need to plan for that? How do we need to plan and allow the community around, because there's the generation infrastructure, but there's obviously also other surrounding infrastructure and community growth that needs to happen to support that build out. And so what we would like to do is make sure that the communities around us have that capacity, that we can enter into those further negotiations and plan together so that we meet the timeframes of the ISO and the ministry and the province. But I'll hand it over to the mayor.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I agree on both your counts here. This funding is significant, and it's the first start of a conversation. And this conversation is going to be very positive going forward. We are going to connect with our communities, our neighboring communities. We're going to connect with our constituents, and we're going to see where this takes us. We're going to provide education to folks. And hopefully moving forward, we're going to see this site in the next 5 to 10 years. We're going to see construction on this site, whatever it may be. But we are going to use this funds to get that conversation started in a positive manner. Thank you.
There's a minister's zoning order request for Nanticoke, as I'm sure you're aware, Minister. Does the outcome of that request affect the future of this site? Which is to say, if 10,000 homes are built next door, would there be a nuclear plant here?
I'm here to generate power for whatever ends up being built in this community. I'm not involved in that debate, and I'm not entering that debate. All I'm going to tell you is I'm going to generate all the power you need for the homes, the farms, and the industry you choose to build. Next question, please.
Hi, Nick Ferns with the Haldimand Press. I was just wondering if you could give any clarification to a timeline on when nuclear may be selected.
You're killing me. You've all assumed the technology we're deciding here, but look, listen, the small modular reactor, it is an impressive. It really sells itself when it comes to the economic value to a community for generations, for 2 to 3 generations of work. But I cannot emphasize that we are not going to get ahead of that process. We have a lot of work to do, including with the First Nation partners, and we've been meeting with them in good faith, and I'm grateful for both chiefs meeting with me as recently as last week, and OPG and the mayor. We've been having ongoing discussions on a very often basis, Mayor, but that's good. But on the timeline, it's a relevant question. So going back to the earlier question when I said we have to reverse engineer our decisions on technology to meet a demand forecast, we really have about 12 years, 15 perhaps at most, to complete whatever our vision is. Now that seems very long. That is the longest case, worst case scenario. If the municipality decided to go with a natural gas play, for example, that would be a much quicker investment and a much quicker construction timeline. So that's why there's a range and there's a spectrum. It could be a few years and it could be, frankly, a decade. Doesn't mean that the value is achieved when the asset turns on. There's a ton of ramp up work, there's construction work, there's site work, and so no matter what we decide, there's going to be economic value. I think if the decision point is predicated exclusively, if it's decided exclusively on the GDP gain, the broader economic value to this community, the employment, then probably nuclear will stand alone. But if the consideration is speed and you want to get something going tomorrow, then maybe natural gas would be the play. That's for this community, First Nations, OPG, to have those good faith discussions. We're here to unlock the funds, engage, and demonstrate a serious path to build together. Because what I can tell you is we need to generate power here, firm power, baseload power. What I haven't concluded, because we haven't commenced the consultation until really today, I guess, as we unlock the funding, is the decision we're going to make. And we're only going to do that in partnership.
Hi, I'm Jeremy with MyFM. So you don't want, I realize everybody's nuclear. You did bring up gas plant. What if someone at home really doesn't know what the options are? Could you maybe explain, like, what are some options to nuclear if that's not the way to go?
Okay, and Kim, you may have a perspective on this, so please come on up. So, I mean, hydrogen, natural gas, small modular reactors are probably the best applications for this type of site at this type of acreage facility to cool air, etc. So, there's probably those are the three to be. I'm not sure there's many more not on the list. I think it is defined by those. So, the list is limited, but it gives you different paths, different timelines, different economic value, different types of energy and types of emissions, right? Nuclear is emission free. It's non-emitting, it's clean power. It's not a 20 or 30-year asset. It's an 65-year for small modular reactor asset. This is a generational play. And I think the lesson I think we have learned, and Will reminded me about the horror stories of many families a decade ago, that they really felt a sense of despair. There wasn't hope, and there wasn't an opportunity to diversify the good, highly proficient workers at the old coal plant into new employment. And that was reckless. But my commitment and our commitment today is to try to learn from the lessons of the past and make a decision that's going to create long-term value, long-term employment to this region. Like, I think, like, you think about the site, the permitting, the fact that it already has port access, close to rail, transmission infrastructure has been massively upgraded. This is a jewel of land, and it is unacceptable that it has not been really delivering meaningful value. So we hear the county, we hear the local governments, we hear the chambers saying, get on with it. Reimagine the potential of this site. Let's create value for our kids and grandkids, and that's what we're doing today.
I understand that this will be far-reaching, and I can appreciate the Norfolk Chamber being here, but we're in Haldimand, so where is the Haldimand Chamber?
I would not know that answer. I'm not sure, Mayor, if you have any.
Would anyone be
I
able
wasn't
to?
involved in the invite.
Okay. We'll have to speak to you offline on the invitation list. I didn't personally send them out, but I will get someone back to you to respond to that question.
That will conclude our press conference. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
Okay, thank you all. All right.
Good job.